It was a small, snow-covered town illuminated by faint, flickering Christmas lights. It's quiet except for the soft crunch of snow underfoot and the occasional whistle of a biting winter wind. In the distance, the chime of a bell echoes from a nearby church. The air carries the faint smell of roasted chestnuts from a street vendor struggling to keep warm by his cart. Our protagonist, Oliver, a scruffy 10-year-old boy in an oversized coat with threadbare mittens, stands in front of a frosty shop window. The glass is frosted at the edges, framing a display of toy trains, dolls, and glowing holiday decorations. Oliver's breath fogs up the window as he presses his nose against it, his wide eyes filled with longing and wonder. The glow of the lights reflects on his face, momentarily masking the shadows of exhaustion beneath his eyes. His world is small, a cramped, cold apartment he shares with his mother, who works long hours at the diner to make ends meet. For Oliver, Christmas is a distant dream, something other kids seem to live but he only observes from the sidelines. A gust of wind jolts him back to reality. He hugs himself for warmth, glancing down at a crumpled flyer in his hand. It reads, "Track Santa. See where he's going in real time." His lips curl into the faintest smile, a spark of excitement lighting up his otherwise weary expression. As Oliver trudges through the snow toward home, a faint shimmer of hope clings to him. This might be the year Christmas feels real. Little does he know, what begins as a simple curiosity will lead to a chain of events that will change his life forever. Inside a dimly lit apartment, Oliver sits at the small kitchen table, a bowl of watery soup in front of him. The walls are thin, and the distant hum of holiday music drifts in from a neighbor's television. Across from him, his mother, Maggie, a kind but weary woman in her 30s, sifts through a pile of bills. Her hands are rough from long hours at the diner, and her face is etched with lines that tell of sacrifices too great for her years. "I saw a toy train in the window today," Oliver says, breaking the silence, his voice filled with quiet hope. "It looked just like the one Grandpa used to have." Maggie glances up, her tired eyes softening. "That train sure was something, wasn't it?" "Maybe someday." Her words trail off as she returns to the bills, her expression tightening. Oliver doesn't press further, he knows better. Instead, he pulls the Santa tracker flyer from his pocket and sets it on the table. "Do you think Santa will come here this year?" he asks, his voice trembling with both hope and doubt. Maggie forces a smile. "Santa's always watching, sweetheart. But sometimes he needs a little help finding the right chimney." Later that night, Oliver sits on his creaky bed, illuminated by the faint glow of a street lamp outside. His fingers trace the edges of the flyer as he whispers to himself, "Maybe if I track Santa, he'll find us." Meanwhile, in the heart of the town square, preparations for a grand Christmas Eve celebration are underway. A towering tree, a Santa's grotto, and a stage for carolers draw excited families, but none of this is within Oliver's reach. Unbeknownst to him, a critical shift is about to occur. Oliver's small act of hope, clicking on the Santa tracker, will set off a sequence of events that will bring him face to face with an unexpected ally and a challenge that will test not only his resilience but also his belief in the magic of kindness. The stage is set, a boy searching for hope in a world that's often unkind, unaware of how close he is to a life-changing moment. That night, armed with his mother's old, clunky laptop, held together with tape and hope, Oliver opens the Santa tracker website. The screen flickers, and a cheerful jingle fills the air as the tracker loads. The map lights up, showing Santa's sleigh moving across the globe. Oliver's eyes widen as he watches in awe. "Look, Mom, he's in Europe right now," he exclaims, but Maggie, exhausted, is already asleep on the worn-out couch. A pang of loneliness tugs at him, but he quickly turns back to the screen, determined not to let the moment slip away. Oliver notices a chat feature at the bottom of the page, asks Santa's helpers. Hesitant but curious, he types, "What happens if Santa can't find my house?" A reply pings back almost immediately, "Santa always finds his way. Just believe." The words seem simple, but to Oliver, they're profound. He decides to follow the tracker closely, convinced that if he can just catch a glimpse of Santa, maybe, just maybe, his wish will come true. The next day, Oliver sets out into town with the flyer in his pocket. He stops by the town square, where cheerful families gather around the enormous Christmas tree. Laughter echoes as children clutch shiny new toys, while Oliver watches from the shadows, clutching his coat tighter against the cold. A group of boys notices him and sneers. Still dreaming about Santa, Oliver? Wontons. He doesn't visit kids like you. Oliver's cheeks burn with humiliation, but he doesn't reply. Instead, he finds solace in a quiet corner of the library, where he logs back into the Santa tracker using one of the old computers. There, he meets someone unexpected, Mr. Peterson, the elderly librarian with a gentle demeanor and an endless collection of Christmas sweaters. Keeping an eye on Santa, eh? Peterson asks with a warm smile. Oliver hesitates but nods. I want him to find my house this year. Peterson sits beside him. You know, when I was your age, I didn't think Santa could find me either. But sometimes, the magic isn't in waiting for him to come, it's in finding the magic yourself. Peterson's words linger in Oliver's mind as he continues his tracking mission. That evening, the Santa tracker shows the sleigh approaching North America. Oliver's heart races. He opens the window of their tiny apartment, the freezing air biting his face as he peers out into the night, scanning the skies. But just as hope reaches its peak, the laptop screen suddenly goes dark. A power outage plunges the apartment into silence and shadow. Oliver's heart sinks. Without the tracker, how will Santa know where to go? Desperate and overwhelmed, Oliver curls up on the couch next to his sleeping mother, clutching the flyer tightly. He feels the sting of tears but refuses to cry, whispering to himself, "Please don't forget us, Santa." Little does he know, a spark of magic is already at work, setting the stage for an extraordinary encounter. The apartment is pitch black, save for the faint glow of moonlight streaming through the frosty window. Oliver sits huddled on the couch, clutching the Santa tracker flyer as tears prick his eyes. The silence feels endless, his fragile hope slipping away with each passing second. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. Oliver freezes, his heart pounding in his chest. Another knock, this time louder. Gathering his courage, he tiptoes to the door and peeks through the peephole. Standing in the dim hallway is Mr. Peterson, bundled in his festive sweater and holding a lantern that casts a warm, golden glow. "I saw the power go out," Peterson says gently when Oliver opens the door. "Thought you could use some company?" In Peterson's hands is a large, mysterious sack. He sets it down and gestures for Oliver to open it. Inside, Oliver finds a small, beautifully wrapped box. His hands tremble as he pulls it out and lifts the lid. It's a toy train, an exact replica of the one his grandfather had. Oliver's eyes fill with tears as Peterson smiles. "Sometimes, Santa needs a little help from his friends," he says, his voice soft but full of warmth. In that moment, Oliver's world shifts. He realizes that magic isn't always about sleighs and reindeer. It's about the kindness of others, the belief in something greater than yourself, and the courage to keep hoping even when life feels unfair. As they sit together by the lantern's glow, the apartment feels warmer than it has in years. Outside, snow begins to fall, blanketing the town in quiet beauty. Oliver looks out the window, clutching the train, and whispers, "Thank you, Santa." For the first time, he truly believes. The next morning, Oliver wakes to the golden light of dawn streaming through the window. The toy train sits proudly on the kitchen table, its glossy paint catching the sunlight. For the first time in a long while, the apartment feels alive with warmth and possibility. Maggie, noticing the train, looks at Oliver with a mix of curiosity and gratitude. "Where did this come from?" she asks, her voice soft. Oliver hesitates, then smiles. "Santa found us," he says simply, his belief shining through. Maggie's tired eyes glisten as she pulls him into a hug. Later that day, Oliver and Maggie walk to the town square, where the Christmas celebrations are in full swing. Peterson waves to them from a small booth decorated with garlands and twinkling lights. Oliver runs to him, holding up the train. "Thank you," he says quietly, his gratitude too big for words. Peterson simply pats him on the shoulder. As they stroll through the square, Oliver notices something extraordinary. The faces around him, once distant and unkind, seem softer now, more inviting. It's as if the kindness shown to him has rippled outward, touching everyone it meets. That evening, back at home, Oliver sets the toy train on the windowsill, its small wheels gleaming. Snow continues to fall, blanketing the town in peaceful silence. As he gazes out at the snowy night, he notices something twinkling in the sky, a streak of light, faint but unmistakable. A smile spreads across his face. "Good night, Santa," he whispers, his heart full. The camera lingers on the train in the window, a symbol of hope and the power of small acts of kindness, before fading into the soft glow of the falling snow.